Hi guys, so we're going to talk about transformation of functions. I just want to apologize for this orientation. I know it's a little harder to see when the video is this small, but I want to be able to show you the calculator and it needs to be in this direction. So below is the graph of y equals the absolute value of x. And on that same graph, we want you to graph y is equal to the absolute value of x plus 2. So to graph the absolute value, your steps are here. I'm going to go through them in just a second. If you do not have a graphing calculator, you should be using Desmos.com, or please go ahead and buy one in the main office. You will need it. Alright, so on my calculator, I'm going to hit y equals, and I'm going to go to math. I hit the arrow to the right, and I see abs, that means absolute value. Now, my x was inside of that absolute value bar, so I need to close the parenthesis, and the plus 2 was on the outside. Right? So it's going to be absolute value of x, close parenthesis, plus 2. If it was in the absolute value bars, that's when I keep it on the inside. Let's take a look at this graph. Okay? So I get my table, and I want some positive and some negative, so I'm going to start at negative 3. So let me go back. I think it looks something like this. Okay, so once you have those points, you can go ahead and plot. So negative 3, 5, negative 2, 4, negative 3, negative 1, 3, 0, 2. And it goes back this way. Now those are the only points that I have in my graph, but I can see that it continues in this pattern, so I'm going to go ahead and continue that on my graph itself. You always want to make sure your graphs go to the very end, even if your numbers aren't on your table. That's ugly. Okay, so that is the new graph. This is y equals absolute value of x plus 2. Now the question at the bottom, when we went from y equals x, that was this original, I'm going to change my color, that was this one. So when we went from the original graph to the new graph that we just did in blue, how did the graph change? Okay, so how does that graph change? Go ahead and answer that. Alright, so you wrote, or maybe you noticed that it changed, it moved 2 spaces up. Okay, so it transformed 2 spaces in the positive upward direction. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. So on this graph, we have y equals x squared. And on the same graph, we are going to plot y equals, parentheses, x plus 3, close parentheses, squared. So again, I'm going to go to my calculator. X plus 3 squared. That was the function, right? Yes. Alright, let's take a look at our table. Okay, and notice how I went up because these numbers are too big. 16, 25. I don't have that much space on my graph, so I'm going to choose negative 5, 4, because that looks like it's going to fit on my graph. Ah. Okay, so negative 5, 4. I actually think I also could have graphed this point, which was negative 6, 9. Negative 4, 1. This is supposed to say 0. Making all sorts of mistakes right now. Sorry about that. Okay, and this new one is y equals x plus 3 squared. Okay, so now, how did this graph transform? How did it change? So it started with this graph, and now we have this new blue graph. How did the graph change? Go ahead and answer that. Alright, so it transformed, or it moved, this time, 3 spaces left. Okay, we're going to need these notes for class tomorrow, so please make sure you have them.